What's the appeal of romance anime? I think that at its core, it's the experience of seeing characters grow and change. Sometimes that's together, like a relationship deepening, and other times it's individually, with a character becoming the person that they really want to be. In just 3 episodes, I am loving how the Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity is having its characters grow and change. Seeing Rintaro and Kaoruko get to know each other has been great, but equally so, Rintaro's transformation has been extremely gratifying to watch unfold. Along the way, the show has played with the traditional romance anime dynamics, leaning into and shying away from them when most effective. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the last episode of Week 4 of Frame by Frame, the series where every week I make a video on each episode of these 4 shows, covering one big idea along with some smaller segments. I hope you'll subscribe to follow along for the rest of the season. I'd love to have you aboard. Let's start with the brief plot rundown of today's episode. Rintaro and Usami are told that unless they pass the upcoming exams, they can't participate in the sports festival. Usami and Saku have a falling out over tutoring, so Rintaro and Usami go to the library to study alone. After giving up their table for 2 students, Rintaro sees Kaoruko studying with a fellow Kikyo student. Eavesdropping, he learns that she is top in her class. Outside of the library, Kaoruko comes to talk with Rintaro. He learns that she is not from a rich family, and studies hard to be at the top of her class. Rintaro asks Kaoruko to tutor him, and she agrees. Subaru, one of Kaoruko's friends, confronts the 2 of them. The rest of the Chidori bunch also show up, and there's a standoff. Usami and Kaoruko apologize to each other before the 2 groups split. Subaru is clearly bothered by Kaoruko's connection with Rintaro. Later that night, Kaoruko calls Rintaro to apologize about the commotion earlier. He asks her to speak less politely with him, which makes both of them happy and embarrassed. We end on a shot of Subaru looking at a childhood photo of her and Kaoruko. Next up is the shot, the scene from the episode that really caught my eye. Today, I want to talk about the scene of Rintaro eavesdropping at the library. The lighting is just superb here, and the colors of the scene are perfect. The warm tint to everything creates such a dreamlike, romantic feel, and the harshness of the lighting adds emphasis to the close-ups as well. This focus rack is great, and then following it with a POV shot like that has such a nice rhythm. The later scene outside is nice, but the lighting isn't as stylized as it is here. However, I do want to shout out this shot too from later on. I love the composition, the asymmetry of their bodies, but the parallel lines of their faces. It feels like something you'd see on a promotional image for the series, but instead it's just part of the larger scene. This show is so full of little moments just like that. Let's get into the main idea. I think one of my favorite parts of this series is how it puts Rintaro and Kaoruko on truly equal footing in their relationship. A lot of the time in romance anime, you'll get this trope of the male character being a steady, more cerebral person, and the female character being more emotionally driven, with larger peaks and valleys between moods. Obviously, a lot of this is tied into traditional gender roles, which definitely can get to be problematic. I am loving so far how that's not really the case here. In fact, Rintaro has been the less sure one so far, more likely to hesitate and second guess. Kaoruko has been more consistent in engaging with Rintaro, and even has the stronger direction in general, with her motivations and outlook. Now this is also not a hard and fast rule, as being overly restrictive in the opposite direction isn't much better. In the confrontation between their friends, Rintaro took a more assertive stance, and with something like the phone call at the end of the episode, they were both struggling with their feelings for each other. I like this more fluid dynamic because it really has let Rintaro flourish thus far. I love that he can ask for Kaoruko's help and acknowledge when he is wrong. That line about wondering when he became so jaded was awesome. On the nose without feeling over the top. I'm highlighting Rintaro here because we haven't looked nearly as closely at Kaoruko yet, but I'm sure we'll see the same as the show goes on. While we're here too, I just want to say how much I appreciate the story's embrace of non-toxic male friendship. It's really sweet to see Rintaro and Usami be able to appreciate each other and vocalize it. This was a great follow-up to the karaoke scene from last week. I will say too, I like that the show is not afraid to have its characters make real mistakes. Saku was being really hurtful here to Subaru, and she was doing the same, and neither seemed to regret it. I was a little surprised that there were no punches pulled here, and instead of immediate reconciliation, we're going to need to wait to see something like that. It makes both this conflict and future ones have real bite to them. Next up is Audience Corner, where I ask what you thought of the episode. I put up a poll on my channel asking you to rate this episode from 1 to 4 stars, and include a comment why if you wanted. First up is my own score, which I would say is 4 stars for this one. This was a bit slower than the last 2 episodes, but I really liked having the extra time in all of the scenes. But what did you all give it? After tallying up the votes, you all scored it a 3.7 out of 4. Zandy here highlighted Subaru as a character, and specifically how the show is indicating the depth of her internal conflict. I completely agree. The amount of little detail work on her reactions through this episode is kind of nuts. And XV Frost You completely hit the nail on the head by predicting what I thought would be the shot today, even down to my reasoning. The lighting was so good in that scene. I laughed when I saw this comment, so I had to include it. Our last segment today is my one big question looking ahead. Today I'm asking, what's the dynamic of the study sessions going to be like? I think it's a very smooth plot device to push our 2 main characters together, and I'm curious to see the balance it strikes between advancing the plot of Rintaro and the sports festival, and growing the relationship between him and Kaoruko. And that's it. That's the final episode of week 4 of Frame by Frame. Stay tuned for next week. If you missed any past episodes, I have playlists for all of these series on my channel. As always, liking and subscribing helps a lot and will keep you in the loop. I'm SlamAnime, and have a great rest of your day.